Well, welcome everybody today is Ellie's testimony day. Yep, it's that time, Ellie. So glad everybody's here and can come and join us. And what an opportunity to hear a young person to step out in faith. That takes great courage, and it's inspiring. And so thanks for wanting to do this, and it's a real opportunity for us to witness her life as she continues from here forward. So, Ellie, want to come on up?
Yippee! Hi! That's a lot of people. Y'all all, I would say my name is Ellee Mae if you don't know me, but I think everyone here knows me. So, hi. Let's get into it. I wrote it down on my phone. I meant to print it out, but I just did not have the time. So, I'm going to be a screenager for a little bit, but I promise I'm not scrolling. Okay. Growing up, I was not raised Christian. My family never went to church, never prayed. I didn't even know what Jesus was until I moved to Idaho. When we moved away from our dad to Idaho, I started taking care of my siblings and just doing so much here, but I never really knew God in the kind of way that kids growing up with him did. I grew up in what my therapist calls an unconventional household. A lot of fighting, drinking, abandonment issues. Not the best for impressionable minds, but I will always be grateful for what my parents did for me because I know they made a lot of sacrifices for me, and I'm really grateful for that. I was 8 years old when we moved to Idaho. We moved into our grandma's spare room before getting our camper. Trailer was small, but not something that's a big deal when you are little. But growing up, cramped has long-lasting effects. Early years in the camper was also the same time I first started going to school. I was homeschooled until the 3rd grade. When I finally went to public school, that's when I first found out about Jesus. But I was so angry. Why couldn't I have what kids at school had? Why wasn't I enough for a sober mom and dad? Why wasn't I enough for a warm house? So many questions that nobody gave answers to. But God was fighting so hard in my life in that moment. And I never realized that until now. I was always wondering why I couldn't be happy, safe, and loved. But I was. God kept me safe. If he didn't, I wouldn't be here today. I never really knew calm or soft kind of love. I developed pretty bad depression and anxiety. It was always either fighting or running away to friends' houses for a weekend. I didn't know how to cope, so I turned to self-harm and smoking to get through it. In those moments, those were the only things that made the world go quiet. One of my favorite Bible stories is the bleeding woman in Matthew 5:25 to 34. I like this story because it talks about how much this woman did to try to heal. It talks about how she went to doctors, she paid so much money to try and fix this thing that was so wrong with her, but it never worked until she heard about Jesus. All she had to do was have so much faith in just touching him and she would be healed. And it worked. She was healed on the spot, and it affected her so much that she broke down in tears when he asked, "Who'd touch me?" Because he knew that he had healed her. Even though she tried to be sneaky, even though she tried to hide from it, she knew it happened, and so did he. He was more than happy to just put that love onto her and heal her in that way. When I became a teenager, I started sneaking out and running away to friends' houses for weekends. Even though we didn't make the best decisions, I'm grateful for those friends because they were all I had. Somewhere I could go to feel safe, at least the kind of safe I didn't know before God. Now I can rely on God for that kind of safety and comfort in ways I hadn't before. I don't have to feel scared or have anxiety or do things a certain way or live my life in fear. I fear God, and that's all I need. Even though I was in the middle of the world, I like to think that God had a shield around me. You know, the one in Psalms 121, 7 and 8. The one where it talks about how he keeps you safe from all the harm and watches over you. Even though he doesn't take you from the world, you're still safe in it. So, being a child of an addict sucks. Taught me a lot of things can destroy you. Never been drunk, I've never been high, never wanted to try those things. But around the age of a teenager, I did start stealing cigarettes from my friends, parents, and my own. Sorry. And it resulted in a really bad habit that I don't think any teenager should have to deal with or use to cope. Not long after I turned 13 or 12, I forget, Rhonda invited me to church. So I started going, asking for last-minute rides, sitting in folding chairs for an hour. Honestly, it was really culty. I had watched the documentaries, read the books. I thought it was so weird. Why were these people putting their faith in something they could not see, couldn't talk to, and listening to someone talk about it for an hour or two for no reason? But I kept going, maybe out of boredom, curiosity, just wondering why. Then I started learning things about the Bible, things I hadn't known before. I started opening my heart to some of the messages that were being taught, and I like to think that God had softened me in some ways. I learned that God was someone who would stay in my life, no matter how much I tried to run away from him. That he saw how broken and lonely I was, and he still chose me anyway. And then I learned he created me and chose me, which is like, what the heck? That's weird. But I fell in love, and I decided to be baptized even though I had just met God. And I started to try and dedicate my life to Christ. Something a year ago, maybe two, I would have thought was absolutely insane. So after a hard year of trial and error, getting into trouble, because even though I still had Christ, I was hanging out and participating with bad influences in my life. My friends and I's lives were put in danger. God spoke to me. He isolated me so much that the line of communication was clear. There was no way I could miss it. And he called me to do better, have a real relationship with him and take him seriously, because it wasn't just my life anymore. I learned that my purpose in God's point of view wasn't just about my life. It was about the people I would affect with my story, with how God was going out. He called me to go out, go to places, youth retreats, church, and talk to people and affect their lives with Christ. He showed me that I didn't have to take up bad influences in my life, and I didn't have to do those things anymore to be cool or fun or think of it as a getaway from God, because you can't. It's not possible. So I went to church camp, and this place was where I learned a lot about being a Christian teenager. Not only how hard it can be, but also how it gives you a lot of advantages in life. You, in your moment, when you're young with God, have the rest of your life to do so much. You right now can affect young people. When you grow up, you can affect adults. When you grow older, you can affect old people. And you can do that for the rest of your life, and feel good about it. And it's not something you have to constantly be chasing. It's not something that you get tired of. There's always something new to learn and something new to teach. You have no idea who you'll affect if you just keep trying, and I didn't either. But I learned about how good prayer is and how it not only draws you closer to God, but draws you closer to yourself too. Like, you're praying out loud, you're praying in your mind, and you're like, why are you doing this? Because why not? You might as well try it. So I did, and it was just opening up new communication for me, for God. And I started praying for other people too, and I thought, I am speaking life into people, and I am putting love into people through prayer, through words. I don't have to It doesn't have to always be an action. It can just be a simple prayer in my mind. And I affect people's lives. I've seen that through prayers, I've started affecting people's lives in positive ways with God. And it's like, wow, how does that work? But I started learning more. My body is one that needed to be physically changed. I was not born normal. My bones don't work the way I want them to. So this summer I went and I got surgery, and I was in the hospital for close to a week. And that week I spent constantly praying. I had my Bible, I watched sermons on YouTube. I was just spending all of that time that I could with God. The conscious time that was in between medicine doses, but so much time with God. And it just brought me closer to him in ways I didn't think that could. In James 4:8, it says, draw close to God and he will draw close to you. And that's so true, because the more you learn about him, he already knows everything about you, but the more you learn about him, the closer you are with him. It's like a friendship. Like, you learn new things about each other, and you chase each other, and then you just get this bond that's so close and so amazing. Also in Philippians 4:6, I can find it over here. It says, don't worry about anything, instead pray about everything. Tell God what you need and thank him for all he has done. When you experience God's peace, which exceeds anything we can understand, his peace will guard your hearts and mind you as you live in Jesus Christ, which is just so true. He's a Prince of Peace. He brings you all of these emotions, all of these things, but he works in your life in a way that is just so amazing. And I like to think that I'm a living role model of that. I wouldn't be half the woman that I am today without God. And I'm really happy God found me where he did, because he saw me and he sees my faith now. And I like to think he sees how hard I'm trying to work, and he thinks it's enough to put me in roles of teaching and guiding. I do children's ministry because that's what God called me to do, and I couldn't be more fulfilled in my life, and I couldn't want to do something more in my life than teach kids, because not only is it giving them an opportunity to learn about God earlier and more than I did, it's affecting others people's lives in the best way I possibly can. Throughout all of this, he just plans my life, and it makes you think there's wars going on, there's martyrs, there's people dying, and he's still planning your life for you. Even if you don't want to see it, he's still there working it, and all you have to do is turn around and there it is, right in front of you, the rest of your life. And he's still writing it, or maybe he's finished writing it, but it's right there, and you just have to turn around and see it, and it's crazy. I get to teach kids every week, and I get to affect their lives in ways I couldn't even imagine, because I didn't get that. But they do now, and it's just crazy to me that they're learning something from me, that I'm able to teach something. I used to think myself dumb and not able to learn anything, but I learned so much that now I'm teaching it, and it's kind of insane. But I know it's not me. I know it's God who put that into my head, and I thank him every day for that kind of knowledge. I never felt love or that I could be loved until I met Jesus. God gave it to a little girl who'd never known what it was or anything like it before. He taught her how to be gentle and how to be kind and how to be smart. And he taught her how to be good in a world that had only ever shown her bad. In Genesis 1:4, which is one of my favorite verses, it says, and God saw the light was good, and he separated it from the darkness. I like to believe that God saw the light in me, a good light that was not meant for this world, and he chose to separate it and make it his own. And I will forever be grateful for that. And I'm not perfect, and no one is. And Lord knows I am not ready to be the teacher he's calling me to be yet. But I know I'll get there, and I know it's with his help that I will. And I would like to leave this message with trust God, because He doesn't see you only for the person you are now. He doesn't see you only for that broken part. He doesn't see for only that lost sheep. He also sees you as the person you're going to become. That's how God starts interacting with you when you look at him. Not just the lost person, the person he's going to make you, the person he's molding you to be. That is who God is creating you, and that's how he sees you always. And I thank you guys for listening, and I hope that I affected you guys the way that God wants me to.